Okay, so lately I've been working on this Husky generator. It's 5,000 running watts, 6250 starting watts. It's got a Subaru engine in it. The issue here is it will start, but it won't stay running. Okay, here's a couple of things that you might need. We've got a new fresh little thing of gas here. Not 2 cycles, just gasoline. Shop towels, always have them. Liquid wrench, penetrating oil, that'll help you if you got a couple of rubber fuel hoses that won't come off. Put a little bit of this in the end and then work it, it'll come right off. Starting fluid, so basically spray that in there and determine whether you have a spark problem or a fuel problem, and this will start up so I know that I'm getting spark, so I know it's a fuel delivery problem. But this is a good thing to have around. And then if you do have a problem where it starts and it doesn't stay running, you'll more than likely need some of this, which is carbon throttle body cleaner. The brand really doesn't matter, they're about all the same. So right now I'm going to go through the set of tools needed for working on it if it starts but won't stay running. This is a 13/16 socket on a swivel. We've got a 10mm socket, a 13mm socket, a set of needle nose pliers for getting the fuel lines off. A little tiny screwdriver will help sometimes get in the end of the fuel line, and you can kind of, without breaking the fuel line, you can kind of wiggle it a little bit to get it loosened so you can get it off. 8mm, you probably won't need that, but just in case. And also this nice magnetic tray for your nuts and bolts that you take off, and it'll stick right to the generator anywhere because it's steel, so it's perfect. And we got this little spark tester. The spark plug goes on this end, the wire goes on this end, and what you do is you pull, and so then you can see if you've got spark. So it's a real neat tool. It was like $5, so it was real cheap. But it helps show you visually that you've got a good spark to your, to your motor. So let me take these off real quick, and then we're going to go to the other side of the engine. Okay, so over here, a couple of things. We got this funnel. It's on a hanger, and then we got that drain pan. So basically, the problem with this was that it had sat for 2 years without running. So first step, we wanted to drain the gas. So we just popped the fuel line off, and that's what I was talking about. The little screwdriver, you can put it right in there, or you can put the needle nose on there and kind of rock them back and forth. Just spray a little tiny bit of penetrating oil right in there, and it'll come right off. So you take that line off and you put your funnel up in there, and then you have it drain right down into the drain pan. Okay, so then we got the fuel out and we put new fuel in it because that's the easiest way to start. So you put new fuel in, turn it to the on position, which we verified that these are not mislabeled or anything. This is the on position. This is the fuel shutoff valve, which is very misleading because right now it's in the on position, which I actually took this off and ran water through it and made sure that this is the on position. That's the off position. So see, it's in line with this line right here. That means it's on. But it's very misleading because when it's in the on position, it has a gasoline with a line symbol on there, so it's very misleading. So we are getting gas. The fuel filter is fine. We put new gas in it, and we tried to start it again, and we know we're getting gas past this valve to the carburetor. But the issue is it won't stay running. So that tells me that it's more than likely the carburetor. So to take that off, you just pop your air filter housing cover off. These little clips aren't attached, so they just kind of clip on, so they'll tend to fall right off, so just keep track of them so they don't get lost. And then you got your air filter. It's a little foam filter, comes right off. You got a bolt here, 10mm, a nut right here, 10 millimeter, and then a nut right here. While I'm over here, I'll just show the location of the spark plug, and that is right there. You just take this little thing off, and then you can pull that out and put a new one in, or you can put your spark tester on there and determine whether or not you have good spark. When you put these back on, you always listen for the little snapping sound they make when they go back on, and that's how you know they're on all the way. This here is the carburetor. It's a Mikuni carburetor. So as I was saying, when you take this 10 millimeter nut, the other one, and then the 10 millimeter bolt off, this black air filter housing will slide right off, and the carburetor, Mikuni, it's M-I-K-U-N-I, comes off right behind it. You'll have to take, which I'll show you on this side, you'll have to take this little gold piece off and this little spring right here. It's on the top of the carb. Don't worry about those like flying or going and getting lost. They just kind of sit in place. They'll sit about right here, and you just rest them on top of here. And then when you put the carburetor back on, you just kind of push this to wherever you need it, and then you kind of just maneuver the little wires into place and springs into place. There's only two. So once you pull this off and take the carburetor off, we cleaned it out, and there, I'll show you on this side. This is the bowl of the carburetor. The float is inside here, and when we pulled this 13 millimeter bolt out of the bottom of the bowl, we noticed that there was gel coming out of there and here also. So right there we knew that the carburetor needed to be cleaned. So we took that off and took it apart. There's actually a very great detailed website for this Mikuni carburetor, and most of them are about the same, so even if it's not exactly the same as this, it'll work. And so you just follow the diagrams on that website if you're not good at taking these apart, and they make it very easy. And so you take this Mikuni carb off, clean it out, and we popped it back on there. This thing is only a couple years old. It's only been run about 5 times. Probably got like a couple hours on it maybe. So 4 things that you need for an engine to run, and that's spark, fuel, air, and compression. It's only got like a couple hours on it, so we know the compression is good. We're getting spark because we tested it with the spark plug tester, and we got the little orange lights. We saw them visually. We know we're getting fuel to the carburetor, but we weren't getting fuel through the carburetor to the engine. So that's why we popped the carb off and clean it. And so we've got fuel, we've got air. You can see right in here, this is where the air filter would be, and I can see right into the carburetor. So we know we got all 4 things: fuel, spark, air, and compression. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to pop that to the right, which is in the start position. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and put a little tiny bit of gas in there. You don't want to put too much, because if you do still have a problem with the carburetor or whatever the problem is, you don't want to have to drain a bunch of gas out again. And just a little tiny bit of gas will keep it running for more than you'd expect. So, and you'd be wasting money to keep doing that. So we just put a tiny little bit in there. These generators, they run like heck, so you want to make sure you get everything off that'll vibrate. Right now, we've still got the air filter off, and you don't typically want to run these with the air filter off. But I mean, if you're diagnosing it and starting it and you just do it for a few minutes, it's absolutely okay. But air particles do get inside there, and that's the problem. I mean, part of the problem is it just gets dirty in there, and so you want to have that filter on. But we're just going to go ahead and try to start it. I'll put it to the choke. It's kind of cold out. So here we go. off position, it started, turned right off. I'll show just one more time. We're not even going to choke it this time. We're just going to... Well, it is a little bit cold out, so we'll go ahead and choke it. So as you can see, she runs perfect, just like a brand new motor all over again. All we did was take the fuel out, change that. We did put a brand new spark plug on it. We took the carb off, cleaned it really well, and now we're just going to go ahead, put the air filter and then the air filter housing cover back on. These fuel line clamps, hose clamps, are not in the right place yet. I've got to put them, you know, to where they've got to be, so don't look at this and think, oh, they're in the right spot, we're done. And but now she runs great, and we're gonna go ahead and give her back to Brian, my stepdad, as a good running engine.